Welcome to The Explainer. So, today, we're jumping straight into one of the most legendary, honestly just captivating tales to ever come out of the Maldives. We're talking about the epic of Dhon Hiyala and Alifulhu. Now, if you think you know the whole story just because you recognize the names, well, you might be in for a surprise. We're going to completely unpack the magic, the monsters, the sprawling geography, and even the modern efforts to keep this incredible epic alive. Let's get into it.
Okay, let's dive into this. You hear it all the time, right? People love calling Dhon Hiyala and Alifulhu the Maldivian Romeo and Juliet, or maybe the local answer to Layla and Majnun. It's a really easy shorthand for a tragic love story. But actually, scratch that. As we start unpacking this today, you're going to see exactly why that label kind of does the whole tale a massive disservice. This isn't just some story about two star-crossed lovers making terrible decisions. No, it's an adventure, a genuinely heroic, epic adventure.
To really grasp the weight of this thing, we got to look at where it came from. The story is rooted in something called the Buruni Ballad. And this isn't a quick bedtime story, it's a massive 6-hour oral history and folklore epic. For generations, this was passed down strictly by word of mouth, sung in this beautiful, deeply poetic language. In fact, it wasn't until 1976 that Abdullah Sadiq, who folks affectionately call Sadubu, actually sat down and finished the monumental task of transcribing this oral tradition into a book, permanently cementing its place in Maldivian literature.
Let's rapidly break down how this whole epic kicks off, and we'll use this brilliant 7-part structure designed by artist Abdullah Thaufig. It all starts with the hidden girl, Dhon Hiyala. Born in Buruni, she was so incredibly beautiful that her parents literally raised her in a secret underground bunker. Why? To protect her from envious, magical eyes. Next up, the dream. Over in Hulhu Delhi, our hero Alifulhu has a prophetic vision about this hidden beauty. And well, that triggers stage 3, the black magic. See, Alifulhu had previously rejected a marriage proposal from a woman named Havafulu. Naturally, she unleashes these powerful dark arts to stop him from ever finding Hiyala. But Alifulhu? He's not easily stopped. He actively battles and defeats Havafuluhu's black magic, making the perilous journey to Buruni. He finds Hiyala, they fall madly in love, and boom, the marriage happens. But you know their happily ever after wasn't gonna last. It gets completely shattered when a spy from Lemagu spots Hiyala, realizes how stunning she is, and runs straight to the king. And that leads to the king's intervention. The king forcefully steps in, using his absolute power to tear the lovers apart so he can claim Hiyala for himself. Which brings us to the devastating conclusion, the tragic end. Alifulhu just outright refuses to give up. He manages to help Hiyala escape the king, but as they're fleeing across the ocean, the king's men start closing in. Realizing they're about to be captured and separated forever, the lovers make a pretty shocking choice. Refusing to live in a world without each other, they jump into the sea, landing directly onto a giant, poisonous jellyfish. They choose to die together, completely on their own terms.
So the crucial point is, when we compared this epic to standard tragic romances, the differences are just striking. There's this brilliant literary analysis by Otto Dithu that points out how traditional tragic figures like Romeo and Juliet are, well, they're often pretty passive. They're confined to their cities and totally overwhelmed by their circumstances. But Alifulhu and Dhon Hiyala, they are highly capable, magic-wielding, ocean-faring heroes. They take active control of their destinies, literally right up to their final defiant moment.
And we have to talk about the sheer scale of their adventure, because it is massive. The vast geography involved here is mind-blowing. We're spanning all the way from Shaviani in the north, hitting islands like Muroshi, Kamando, and Lahaimagu, all the way down to Tha Atolls, Buruni, and Kondudu. Then we're crossing over to Dalu Atolls, Hula Deli, and straight into the capital, Malay City. This is definitely not some localized village dispute. It's a sprawling national adventure that connects the geography of the entire Maldives.
What's even more fascinating is the world these characters inhabit. It isn't just historical, it is deeply fantastical. The ballad is completely packed with incredible supernatural elements. We're talking intense black magic battles, terrifying sea monsters, known as Kondu Fure Tha, negotiations with the king of the sea himself, a talking white crow that Hiyala actually communicates with using a secret crow language, and of course Alifulhu's magical boat, the Enderioti. Honestly, it's an absolute masterclass in world building.
And this brilliantly illustrates the poetic nature of the original oral tradition. The ballad doesn't just focus on the main characters. It spends time setting up their incredible lineage using these highly stylized, repetitive phrases. Take this quote describing their hard-working ancestors. Ali climbs 35 trees to collect toddy, while Sakina gathers firewood and cooks without a single complaint. And as their wealth grows, that exact same phrasing is repeated.
just with larger numbers. It shows us exactly how the oral storytellers used rhythm and repetition to help memorize the 6-hour epic, while also highlighting the characters' insane work ethic.
We actually see this repetitive richness again when our heroes are getting ready for action. Whenever Alifulhu, or really any major character, dresses for an important journey, the ballad recites this elaborate checklist. He opened his chest, wore a yellow velvet dress, tied a 5-striped scarf. This repetitive, super detailed description of their garments really showcases the immense richness of the original Dhivehi language, and, it also highlights just how wealthy and high status our protagonists really were.
And when Alifulhu arrives in a new village, looking like that, the reaction is always legendary. The storyteller repeats quotes like, "Old women said, 'What if he calls us mother?' Young women wished he was their husband, and the men watched in awe." This recurring, highly enthusiastic reaction really cements Alifulhu's status. He's not some tragic, helpless victim of love. He's an undeniable, charismatic, epic hero who commands serious respect wherever he goes.
Because this story is so visually and culturally rich, modern artists are finding some really incredible ways to preserve it today. Back in 2019, artist Abdullah Tawfiq, often known as Thu, brought the story to life in a unique exhibition called Le Fela. Hosted at a local boutique space, Thu summarized the epic into those 7 distinct stages we talked about earlier. But what made this truly brilliant was how he blended traditional Maldivian galavedan, or stone carving motifs, directly into the character designs. It just beautifully fused the folklore with physical Maldivian heritage. The tourism industry has definitely recognized the magnetic pull of this epic too. As part of their Tales of the Maldives campaign, Visit Maldives released an absolutely stunning promotional short film directed by Ahmed Shanan. Starring rising actress Mariam Shifa and popular actor Ali Azim, the film recreated the romance and the tragedy of the tale, and it racked up over 14,000 views on YouTube in a single day. It really proves that this historical narrative still completely captivates modern audiences.
But it makes you wonder how much of this myth is actually grounded in reality. Well, that's exactly the question Halevi Media set out to answer. Backed by a $25,000 grant from the U.S. Ambassador's Fund for Cultural Preservation, they launched a massive documentary project. The team traveled to the actual islands mentioned in the epic. Get this, they even uncovered a site in Kundutu that locals genuinely claim is Dhon Hiyala's grave. Crucially, though, the project also aimed to record and digitize that original 6-hour oral audio before the generation that actually knows it by heart passes away. Let's look at how this builds over time, because all of these efforts create an incredible, lasting legacy across the decades. In 1976, we get that vital transcription by Sadiq. The story's international intrigue was actually so strong that in 2013, a Thai princess literally traveled to the island of Don Phanu, which is the home of Hiyala's mother, just to learn about the origins of the tale. Then we have the 2014 Whole Heavy documentary exploring its historical roots, followed by that high-production 2021 Visit Maldives short film. This is a story that absolutely refuses to be forgotten. Which leaves us with the ultimate question. After looking at the sprawling geography, the rich cultural details, and the locals who still fiercely protect physical grave sites tied to the heroes, is the epic of Dhon Hiyala and Alifulhu pure brilliant fiction woven by masterful storytellers? Or is it a hidden, dramatic history that's been embellished over centuries, just waiting to be fully uncovered? It's a mystery that makes the Maldives even more fascinating. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring.